Before we dive into today's story, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Stick with us till the very end. And if this story moves you, share your thoughts in the comments and send it to a friend who needs to hear it. Now, let's begin. For most of her 34 years, Leora Dane had relied only on herself. She had no siblings to lean on, no father waiting at the door, no mother cheering her from the sidelines. When she was 16, her world had cracked open on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Her mother, Mina, had stood at the doorway, one hand on her swollen belly, her face a mixture of exhaustion and determination. "It's time you found your own way," she had said quietly, as if those words would not burn themselves into her daughter's heart forever. Beside her stood her stepfather, Jonah, neat in his pressed shirt and polished shoes, holding 3 garbage bags filled with Leora's belongings and a small envelope containing $300 in cash. The hallway smelled faintly of disinfectant and baby powder. Leora had felt like a guest being dismissed from a hotel she never asked to stay in. "Where am I supposed to go?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Jonah's reply was calm, businesslike. "You'll figure it out. You're almost an adult." The sound of rain on the porch roof filled the silence as Leora stared down at the envelope, her fingers cold. That moment cut her life into 2 halves, before and after, and the girl who stepped into the rain that night would never return. Now, 18 years later, Leora was the CEO of a tech company valued at $42 million. She had built it from scratch, starting with nothing but a second-hand laptop and a shared basement office with unreliable Wi-Fi. Investors called her the girl who never stops, a title she wore like armor. She had no family photos on her desk, no childhood mementos, no keepsakes from the life she had left behind. But just as she was preparing for her company's next phase of expansion, an email landed in her inbox, an email that made her chest feel hollow. The subject line was simple: "We need to talk." It was signed Mina. There was no greeting, no apology, no explanation. Just a short message: "I'm in town for a few days, staying at the Lerner Hotel. Please let me know when we can meet." Leora stared at the screen for several long minutes, her fingers frozen over the keyboard. The office around her seemed to vanish, replaced by the memory of wet garbage bags and the sound of her 16-year-old self whispering to no one in particular. "Where am I supposed to go?" She closed the laptop and leaned back in her chair, heart racing. Leora had grown up in a small apartment on the edge of Greystone, a quiet neighborhood outside Kelton. For the first few years, it had just been her and Mina against the world. Her father, Harris, had disappeared when she was 5, leaving behind nothing but unpaid bills and a set of crooked shelves. Despite the cramped space and tight budget, those years had been sweet. Mina worked 2 jobs, selling clothes by day, washing dishes by night, but still found time for cheap frozen pizza dinners, late-night movie marathons, and slow walks to the corner store for popsicles in summer. "We're a team, you and me," Mina would say, brushing Leora's hair back before collapsing onto their sagging couch. Leora cooked simple meals on school nights, learned how to stretch a grocery list before she learned algebra, and believed with all her heart that she and her mother could weather anything together. That was before Jonah arrived, before the house filled with someone else's laughter and someone else's rules. Jonah had been a manager at a local insurance firm, the kind of man who always smelled of aftershave and carried himself like he owned the room. He liked Mina's cooking, her soft laugh, and her warm smile. What he didn't like, Leora would later realize, was her presence. He brought flowers and little gifts that made Mina blush in a way Leora had never seen before. "He's a gentleman," Mina had said one evening, humming as she cooked. But Leora had seen how Jonah's eyes slid past her as though she were furniture. She heard the sharp words whispered when Mina wasn't around. "Your mother could have had an easier life if she didn't have to raise you." The words lodged themselves deep inside her like splinters. She told Mina once, but Mina only laughed softly. "Jonah jokes too much." Don't take it seriously. But Jonah's jokes were not funny. Within months, his 2 children from his previous marriage began visiting on weekends. Devin, 10, and Elise, 8, arrived with suitcases full of toys that spilled across the living room floor. "Dad says this house will really feel like ours soon," Devin had bragged one night as Mina served dinner. Leora had said nothing, but a small, cold knot had formed in her chest. The wedding was small, quiet. Leora, 13, had worn a stiff dress chosen by Jonah's mother, a stern woman with eyes like polished glass. "It hides those awkward angles," she had said, tugging at the fabric around Leora's hips. A month later, they moved into Jonah's house in Ridgeway, a place with perfect hedges and silent streets. Devin and Elise were given freshly painted bedrooms with glow-in-the-dark stars on their ceilings. Leora was given the smallest room, a converted office with one narrow window facing a brick wall. "They're not here all the time," Jonah explained. "We want them to feel welcome." Dinners were worse. Mina, Jonah, Devin, and Elise would laugh and share stories, while Leora pushed food around her plate. If she tried to speak, Jonah would cut her off. "Let's hear about Elise's dance recital." "Leora can tell us later." Later never came. When she made the honor roll, Mina signed the certificate without a glance, too busy icing a cake for Elise's art contest win. Jonah perfected the art of leaving her out. "Oh, didn't we tell you? We went to Ice Harbor Park this weekend." Friends were discouraged from visiting. "It's too expensive to feed extra mouths," Jonah would say. So Leora stopped asking. By 14, Leora was spending more time at the library than at home. She stayed until closing, claiming she had study groups, when really she just couldn't bear the quiet cruelty of Ridgeway. It was in the back corner of that library that she discovered programming. Mr. Ian, a kind math teacher who often supervised after-school study hall, noticed her copying computer manuals by hand because she couldn't afford to buy them. "You've got a mind like a machine," he said, sliding an old coding book across the table. "Don't waste it." She didn't plan to. She'd buried herself in learning, writing simple programs on the school's old computers, dreaming of the day she could build something that was truly hers. Then Mina got pregnant. The announcement came over breakfast, Jonah's hand wrapped around hers as if he were about to toast a business deal. "We're having a baby," Mina said, her face glowing. Jonah kissed her knuckles. Devin and Elise cheered. Leora forced a smile and whispered, "Congratulations." The house turned into a nursery almost overnight. Walls painted soft yellow, stuffed toys lined up in perfect rows, tiny socks folded in drawers. "This time we'll do everything right," Mina had said with a dreamy sigh, not noticing the way Leora stood at the doorway, her fists balled tight. At 15, Leora began planning her escape in earnest. She met with her school counselor in secret, researched universities with early entry programs, and filled out scholarship forms in the back of the library. She wrote essay after essay, pouring her rage into perfect grammar and crisp sentences. "When I get out," she whispered to her best friend Tara one night, "I'm never coming back." Her 16th birthday came and went without mention. No cake, no card, no word from Mina. When Tara's mother called to invite Leora to dinner to celebrate, Jonah answered the phone. "We're teaching Leora about budgeting," he said briskly. "No parties." Leora didn't argue. She was used to being an afterthought. But 2 weeks later, she returned from school to find 3 trash bags and a backpack on the porch. Her key no longer worked. When she knocked, Jonah opened the door, face calm and almost bored. "We've decided it's time," he said. "The baby needs more space. Your room will be turned into an annex for the nursery." Mina appeared behind him, her belly round. "Honey, you're 16 now. It's time you stand on your own. Lots of teens live independently. We believe in you." Leora stared at them, her throat dry. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked. Jonah handed her an envelope. "There's $300 inside. Your counselor will help you find housing. Rain started to fall as Leora stood on the porch, water soaking through her shoes. Her things were getting wet, the trash bags sagging under the weight. She asked to come inside just to use the bathroom to make a call. Jonah checked his watch. 5 minutes, he said. We've got a birthing class. Inside, the hallway looked strangely empty. Family photos that once had her face were gone. Her small room had been stripped, and Elise sat cross-legged on the mattress, sorting through a box of Leora's old sketchbooks. I'm taking your desk lamp, Elise said casually. Dad said I could. Leora said nothing. She locked herself in the bathroom and texted Tara, emergency. They kicked me out. Can you come get me? The reply came seconds later. On my way. Bring Mom. When she stepped back outside, Mina stood alone in the hallway. This might seem harsh, Mina said, not meeting her eyes. But you'll understand when you have children. Sometimes hard choices have to be made. Leora's voice cracked. I am your child. Mina looked away. The rain came down harder. Tara's mother arrived 20 minutes later in her old green sedan, headlights cutting through the rain. Where is she? She demanded, her voice sharp. Inside, Leora muttered. But can we just go, please? She didn't want anyone to witness her final humiliation. They loaded the bags into the trunk and drove away. That night, Leora curled up on a blanket in Tara's room, her back to the wall. Tara's mother made her soup and offered clean towels, but nothing quieted the aching emptiness in her chest. Later that night, she sent Mina one last message. I don't understand. Why did you do this to me? There was no reply, only silence. The next morning, Tara's mother made pancakes as though everything was normal. You can stay here as long as you need, she said gently. Leora nodded, but didn't trust the words. That same week, Tara's father, a lawyer, helped Leora file for legal emancipation. This is abandonment, he said, his voice fierce. We'll make sure you're protected. Leora worked 2 part-time jobs, one before school at a coffee shop, the other on weekends at a bookstore, saving every dollar she could. You're going to burn out, warned her counselor. Leora just smiled. I'll rest when I get out. Leora won a full scholarship to East Cliff University, including a small housing grant. She didn't celebrate. She just packed her bags and moved forward. At university, she thrived. Professors noticed her quickly, especially Dr. Karen Lell, who ran the computer science department. You've already surpassed first-year requirements, Karen said, astonished. Who taught you? Me, Leora replied simply. I had to learn to survive. With Karen's mentorship, Leora landed internships, built small software tools, and met other students with similar scars. One had been kicked out for coming out to his parents. Another had escaped a violent home. Together, they built a chosen family. Late-night noodles, coding marathons, whispered laughter under shared blankets. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. By 24, she had a master's degree and a resume that tech companies fought over. She joined an education tech startup as a junior developer, but quickly rose to team lead. At 27, she and a business strategist named Kaylin co-founded Brightwave, an adaptive learning platform. Their first pitch failed miserably, but their second impressed an investor whose daughter struggled in school. If your software can help kids like her, I'm in, he said. That funding launched Brightwave, and for 5 years, Leora worked 80-hour weeks until the company became one of the fastest-growing platforms in education tech. It was on a quiet Tuesday that the past cracked open again. An email arrived from an unfamiliar address. We need to talk. I'm in town for a few days, staying at the Lerner Hotel. Please let me know when we can meet. It was signed, Mina. The name hit her like a blow to the chest. For a long time, she just stared at it, the cursor blinking. Then she closed the laptop, called her therapist, and booked an emergency session. Do I respond? She asked Dr. Rand 2 days later. That depends, the therapist replied gently. Do you want a conversation, or do you want closure? After hours of pacing, Leora finally replied. Friday, 10 a.m. Oakwood Cafe, a neutral, public place. When Friday came, she dressed in the same navy suit she had worn for her Forbes cover shoot. She pinned her hair back, slipped on her calmest face, and walked into the cafe at exactly 10. Mina was already there, older, her hair streaked with silver, her frame smaller than Leora remembered. Her eyes filled with tears when she saw her. "Leora," she breathed, "you look incredible." "It's Miss Dane now," Leora replied coolly, sitting down. Mina's fingers twisted in her lap. "I've watched you from afar. I'm proud of what you've done." Leora kept her voice level. "You had no other choice. You left me no choice either." Mina flinched, but pressed on. "We're in trouble. Jonah's business failed. Devin and Elise are in college. Riley's about to graduate high school. We can't keep up with tuition. I was hoping," she hesitated, "you could help. Just until they finish." Leora set her coffee down. "You erased me from your life. Now you want me to fund theirs." "They don't know about you," Mina said quickly. "We told them I had 3 children. They don't need to know the past." Leora's jaw tightened. "Then you don't need my money." Mina reached across the table, desperate. "Please, they didn't ask for this." Leora pulled back. "If I help, it will be on my terms. First, you tell them everything, who I am, what you did. Second, I control the funds through a trust. And third, I meet them. If I'm paying for their future, they deserve to know the truth." 3 days later, Leora received a text from an unknown number. "Is it true? Are you really our sister?" It was signed Elise. Then another message. "We didn't know. Can we meet?" Slowly, carefully, the wall she had built began to crack. She met Elise at a quiet cafe near the university. Elise looked nervous but hopeful. "I'm sorry," she said as soon as they sat down. "Mom told us what happened. I can't believe they did that to you." "I can," Leora replied softly. "I lived it." Elise's voice shook. "I always wanted an older sister." They spoke for hours, sharing stories, sipping cocoa. In the weeks that followed, Leora met Devin and Riley. Riley told her, "It feels like finding a missing puzzle piece. It changes everything." Leora set up the trust in her name, paid directly to the schools. No money went through Mina or Jonah. Mina sent birthday cards, apology messages, but they all felt hollow. "Forgiveness and trust aren't the same thing," Leora told Dr. Rand one evening. Years passed. Brightwave crossed 100 million in valuation. Leora bought a house on a hill with wide windows and a private library. One snowy night, Riley sent her a picture from his film premiere. "You helped make this happen," he wrote. Leora smiled. On the anniversary of the night she was kicked out, she stood on her porch, lit a single candle, and whispered to the wind, "You made it. You're safe now." Then she stepped inside and shut the door, not to shut anyone out, but to finally live, fully and freely by her own choice. Spring came early that year, and with it, a quiet peace Leora had never known. She spent long evenings on her balcony, watching the sun dip behind the hills, her phone buzzing with photos from Elise of dorm life, Riley's new short film ideas, and even a cautious birthday text from Devin. She never replied to Mina's attempts at small talk, but she didn't block her either. The silence between them was no longer a wound. It was a boundary, carefully drawn and finally respected. One Saturday morning, Leora hosted Tara and her parents for brunch in her new home, filling the kitchen with the smell of coffee and cinnamon bread. "You've built something beautiful," Tara's mother said, squeezing her hand. "And you've become someone even more beautiful." That night, Leora pulled out an old photograph Maria had saved for her, a grainy picture of 16-year-old Leora sitting on the porch steps, soaked from the rain, clutching the envelope of cash. She didn't cry. Instead, she lit a candle beside the photo and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up." She realized then that forgiveness didn't have to mean reunion. It could simply mean releasing the last thread of bitterness she still carried. She closed her eyes, imagining that frightened girl walking away from the house for the last time. And this time she saw her turn back with a small, defiant smile. The next morning, she opened her laptop, wrote a check into the trust for one final semester, and sent a message to Elise. Proud of you. Keep going. Leora didn't just survive what happened, she transformed it. And as the dawn broke over the hills, she finally felt what she had fought for all her life. Not just freedom, but the right to choose who stayed in her story. Like and subscribe to my channel for more contents like this, and let us know where you are watching from under the comment section.